Hello. This will be a brief lesson on how to structure argument using the claim, reason, and evidence model. And what I'm focusing on in this lesson is the body of your paper. For this paper, like any academic paper, you'll have an introduction paragraph. Your thesis, as we've talked about before, your thesis will appear in the last or second to last sentence of your introduction. So your intro should build into that thesis. And then you'll have your body, and then of course your conclusion. So you might be wondering, how do I structure this? Although I don't have a sections document for this paper. I do have a way to help you succeed in organizing your body, and that's what this is about. So let's move on here. Just remember that when you're writing an argument paper, and this is an evaluation type of argument paper you're writing, it's really about, you're trying to persuade your audience, yes, but you're not, it's really about building a deeper understanding, maybe convincing someone of something, but also adding more information to the conversation, basically. That's what it's about. Okay, so three main components of an argument, as I mentioned earlier: claim, reasons, and evidence. And so your claim is essentially, think of this as a sub argument of your big argument, which will be your thesis. So you have your thesis statement, and then you have these claims that are basically, you can think of these as points or sub arguments that tie in or support your thesis. Then you'll provide reasons, and then you'll provide some evidence from either news sources. In this paper, you'll use news sources, statistics, your own knowledge, as long as it's factual knowledge. And I'll model that in a minute here and show you an example of how to do that. So that's kind of the structure, and you start with a claim, move to reasons, and you end with evidence, and that's really a paragraph. It should be roughly a paragraph for each one of these claims. So what is a claim? This is it's a point that ties into your thesis, okay? It's a point that you can use to convince your audience of the primary message or your thesis. It should be a debatable claim, just like a thesis, and I like to think of these as sub-arguments. When I teach in person, I think that works for students to think of it as sub-arguments. So your thesis is your overarching, very significant argument, but then under that, okay, what are the 3 or 4, maybe 5 claims or sub-arguments that support your overall argument, which is your thesis statement? And then if you make a claim, you need reasons. So what are the reasons that you are making this argument, this sub-argument, this claim? This is a logical way to explain your claim. Think of it that way. The facts are going to be in your evidence, but this is more, you build your argument here in your reasons. And again, I'll show you an example of this a little bit later. Your reasons, though, should be rational and acceptable. So think of your audience, it shouldn't be outlandish or something that's hard to believe. So use your sense of logic and build and add some reasons that tie into your claim. Again, it supports the claim. So these reasons are particular to the claim you just made in this same paragraph. Then you move to reasons. So reasons in this paper, now it differs with each type of paper. If you're writing a research-based argument paper where you use academic journal articles and other academic sources, peer-reviewed sources, that would be part of your evidence. However, for this assignment for Summer 1101 in my course, you're using factual evidence. So that could be, think of if you're arguing that some album is a certain band's greatest album of all time, for all the albums they produced. Well, you'd want to look at album sales, okay? So that would be a factual number. That is out there, and it's a known factual number. If you're looking at, arguing that Friends is the best American sitcom ever, you'd probably want to look at how many viewers turned into the final episode of Friends compared to maybe some other ones. How many seasons did they have? And you could look at also how long it's been in circulation is not the right word. How long it's been airing since the original show went off the air, and so now you have reruns, basically, is what I was trying to say. And so you have this timeline, how long the show has actually been available to view. Um, Syndication was the word I was looking for. So Friends like Seinfeld, How I Met Your Mother, all these shows have been on for a long time. They're on syndication now, which is a entertainment term for basically reruns. Shows that are off the air, then no more new shows. But you look at all of that. Another example, if you're arguing that a certain Star Wars film is the best and most entertaining and most powerful of all the Star Wars films, and there are a lot. What kind of evidence would you use? Well, you would use maybe box office numbers, meaning revenue when it was in the theaters. You'll look at streaming data. You can find that online. It's fairly very known information. And so these are facts, again, that's what you're using for your evidence. You'd also maybe look at, any awards that has won, either production awards or some of the actors that have won Academy Awards, if that's the case. I'm not a film expert, but that would be another, factual. Someone in this particular film won Best Actor or Best Actress or Best Director, whatever. So, that explains a little bit, but I think when you see my example, you'll understand it a little better. All right, moving on. So your evidence should be sufficient. Like it should be something that there's enough there to support your claim, not just some minor just fact, but something that's substantial. Should be relevant, like it connects to your audience. It connects to your overall thesis. And then also it should be accurate. Now, again, you're going to have to use your best judgment on this, but things like revenue, number of streams, number of albums sold, if you're looking at, something like a TV series and you're claiming it was the best sitcom ever in America, you would look at all those numbers I talked about earlier. If you're looking at, making an evaluation of, that Panera Bread is the healthiest fast food under $15 would be an example of something you could write a paper about that. You would want to look at their menu, and you would look at calories and carbs and the ingredients. Compare that to McDonald's, and that's kind of an overwhelming argument in the favor of Panera. You spend about $5 more and you get a much healthier food, but they're both really fast food. So anyway, you look at known facts for your for your evidence. Okay, you can also look at timelines, historical info, and that sort of thing. So I think it will help you if you look at you're going to look at primary evidence. So everything I'm talking about is primary evidence, like statistical information, news accounts of something that happened. That's what primary evidence means, and that's what you're using for this paper. So a really simple example here: if there's a video that captured in real time a shoplifting event or any kind of event out in the community that happened, and it's posted and you see it, that's the actual video. You see what's happening. That's primary evidence versus, say, a tweet or some kind of opinion article or another social media post about the incident. That's secondary because it's not the actual video of what's happening. So that's what, when you hear primary and secondary, that's what that is. Primary would be like an original, say, manuscript of something that was produced, like a government document or a treaty or something like that. But a book about the Constitution, analyzing the Constitution, that wouldn't be the same as the Constitution. So the book would be a secondary, and the actual Constitution or a replica of it would be a primary source. Okay, and so secondary sources, secondary evidence would be, like I said, scholarly news articles, opinion pieces, which are op-ed columns, same thing, analysis, that sort of thing. And we're not doing that in this paper, but I just want you to be aware of that because that's primarily what you'll use actually mostly in 1102. Okay, but we're not doing that in 1101 in my course. Okay, this is a slide that I think will put it all together for you, the claim, reason, evidence model. So let's say you're writing this evaluation paper on Michael Jordan and your thesis, basketball player Michael Jordan, hopefully you know who that is. If you don't, he's considered the greatest player of all time, or the GOAT. Some argue, though, there is reasonable arguments that Kobe Bryant or LeBron, who's still playing, LeBron James is the best, not Jordan. So there's like 3 or 4 in that, really just 3 that I'm aware of in that argument. Maybe there's a 4th, but Jordan is often cited as the best. So if you're writing a paper and you're saying Michael Jordan's the best player of all time, and that's your and you write out a more extensive thesis than that, but the heart of your thesis is that he is the greatest NBA player, basketball player of all time. So this is within your body. You want to make a point about his defensive skills. So Jordan was phenomenal. If you are a basketball player or like a basketball fan like me, you recognize that his greatness was not just in his scoring, but also his defense. So I'm making a claim that he is the best of all time due to his legendary defensive skills. Okay, so this paragraph, it's about 100 words, which is enough for a paragraph, is focusing on that. Okay, so there's the claim you see there. The reason Jordan's greatness was more than just scoring, he was a shutdown defender. Okay, he showed that to be a complete NBA player, you have to play elite defense, which he did. Now, I'm claiming here that, putting this together, he was the best of all time due to defensive skills. Now, I'll have another claim in the paper that's about his offensive skills and his teamwork and other stuff. You can have, 5 or 6 claims in your paper, probably, I would think. Maybe 6 or 7, but I think 5 to 6 is a good number. The evidence, so I've provided a reason why this is important, why it matters, and the evidence is that he won Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA in the 87 to 88 season. Also, he won the MVP that year, okay, which has never happened since then. And so he's the only one that won the MVP and the NBA Defensive Player the same season. And then also add, along with these awards, he achieved the scoring title that season too. So he's able to play elite defense while also scoring. Okay, that's really the argument. So you see how I put it together. You could do this model for any of your topics. Okay, if you're saying that you're writing that Beyonce is the most prolific and some of the most successful R&B and pop artist in America. This come from America. You would have maybe a claim that of some reason, a claim that's supported by a reason that she's the greatest. And your evidence might be concert sales, tickets. It might be her longevity, how long she's been doing this. It might be the number of total downloads or album sales, that sort of thing. But you can do this model with any of them. And that's it for this lesson, but I hope this helps you put together your evaluation paper. Email me if you have any questions.